This edition of MacVoices is sponsored by Smile, the makers of PDF Pen, PDF Pen Pro, PDF Pen for iPhone, PDF Pen for iPad, PDF Pen Scan Plus for iPhone and iPad, Text Expander Touch, and Disk Label. Find out more about all their great products at smilesoftware.com. Welcome back to MacVoices. This is the Talk of the Mac community. I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, we're on the road to Macworld iWork 2014, talking to some of the presenters, the exhibitors, some of the people that are going to make this year's session just like it always is, great, fun, a place to be. This time around, we've got Mr. Ben Waldie. He is, well, Ben, first of all, it's great to see you. Second, what are you doing this time around?
Usually I speak about AppleScript and Automator, so I'm always talking about like productivity or automation. This year, I'm going to kind of switch it up a little bit. I'm doing a session on automation for the web. So I might mention, scripting and Automator and things like that in my presentation, but I'm going to gear it more toward just ways to be more productive online, because we're all working online more, and there's a lot more we can do, I think, to make ourselves more productive in that area. And then I'm also doing a rapid fire session as well during the rapid fire presentation. But that's just like a little 5-minute thing.
Yeah. All right. So let's get to the rapid fire later. But this is really interesting to me because, you are one of the Automator guys. You're one of the AppleScript guys that are constantly telling me that, you can make my Mac turn flips. And I know you can. That's the really annoying part about it. But now you're going to move us out to the web for scripting and for automation?
Well, so every year at Macworld, I try to do something a little bit different, and I don't want to do the same exact, AppleScript presentation or Automator presentation every single year. So the last couple of years, I've tried to focus a little bit more on productivity, and I've done things on email productivity or just Mac productivity in general. And I still do stuff on Mac automation as well. But this year, and it's kind of a topic I've toyed around with for a while now. I thought it would be useful to just do something about some of the ways we can automate or streamline some of the things that we do online, because I keep finding little tips and tricks and apps and services and things like that can just help me work better. We're all working online more and more these days in our web browsers and things like that, and we're working with lots of different websites and lots of types of data and things like that, and I think there's some ways that we can tie these things together to just make them more efficient, and also things like processing data that we may download from the web and integrating different web services together and stuff like that. So I'm going to provide some tips and some tools that I've used myself or that I've seen online that I think are pretty cool. It's a fairly short presentation, it's only about 45 minutes, but we'll see how it goes. It's something new, so I'm going to try it out, and hopefully people will find it interesting.
45 minutes can be a long time or it can be a short time for some of these sessions. I think the key point is always to make people aware of what's out there, maybe, give them that first 1 step, 2 step, 3 steps, and then let them run on their own, because they're going to take it ultimately to the way it's going to affect them as opposed to the way you want them to use it. But give me an idea of, and don't do the whole session here, obviously, but I can think, like, for example, automating logins to certain websites. That would seem to be pretty easy, and it's built into the browsers. But I get the sense you're going to go a little farther than that. I get requests fairly frequently from people who just they want to automate something. It could be logging into their bank account and downloading transactions. It could be pulling information from the web. Or it could be, downloading stuff from maybe Flickr and integrating it into iPhoto, or, integrating social media sites together. So, if you're cross-posting to different locations, how to do that more efficiently. And I've started to use some of these tools myself with my own website and just, Twitter and some of these services for automating various things online, and so I just thought that it would be something. I don't think there's I think people are using these things, but there's so many out there. I thought it would be useful to just kind of try to pull some of those together into a session. And there's I'm sure that I'm not going to mention everything people use, but
But hopefully I'll give people some ideas of some interesting things out there. Also, things like Safari plugins and extensions. Some of these things are, I don't know that people know how to get these things or where to find them or what's out there. And there's some nifty things out there that can just save you like a few seconds here or there, or make something a little bit easier that maybe was kind of time consuming before. So I'm just going to mention kind of some of my picks for these kinds of things.
The browser plugins are a great example because there seem to be so many of them out there, but I know I don't utilize enough of them. Mm-hmm. The ones that I have obviously save me time, but they're not the kind of things that get written up or talked about a lot, just because they usually are very much one-trick ponies. And if you have that particular fence to jump, that's great. And if you don't, well, then it doesn't apply to you.
Yeah. The ones that I'm probably going to mention are probably fairly generic, and I think that they will apply to a number of people. But they are, like you said, one-trick ponies. They might just save people a few seconds here or there. But everything takes time. So a browser extension might save you 10 clicks by just allowing you to do something in one click. And you might do that once or twice a day, but over time that adds up to a lot of time savings and makes you more productive.
That's always been the thing with scripting, AppleScript, Automator, whatever. It takes a certain investment in time, and it, like you say, it may not save you a lot, but over time it saves you a lot, and it just makes you more productive, and it gets you out of that drudgery mode. Mm-hmm. I think, I sit down and I do something, and I'm doing the same thing 10 times. And it's like, well, but I don't want to take time to fix that right now, so I'll get around to it. Right. And I never get. And then when I eventually get around to it, it's like, what was wrong with me? Why didn't I do this before? It's like eating your vegetables. Then it's good for you. It feels good.
Yeah. I keep coming across that kind of stuff at my house, like some kind of home improvement that I'll finally do. You spend time fixing something that after 5 years, and I'm thinking, why didn't I do this before? But yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think one issue people have is that there's so many things people do. People aren't always sure, what they can improve on, or they just don't want to take the time because they think, it's only taking me a second or two. And also, there's so many things to weed through. So sometimes, if you just want to maybe streamline a certain process, whether you're using AppleScript, Automator, Safari extension, or any service or whatever, there's 50 services out there that do any given thing. So how do you find a good one? So I think that's one of the things I like to do in some of these productivity presentations, just kind of throw out there some things that I found that I think are useful, and hopefully that'll save people some time. They won't have to weed through all these things themselves. They can just take a couple little tidbits, and maybe one or two of them will be useful to them. And I'm only recommending things that I believe in, so hopefully that will be useful.
Ben, any of the automation stuff, most of it, and especially at your level, I think can be a little intimidating to the rest of us. Are these the kind of things, because you've referenced web services and all, are these the kind of things that are easy to set up? Because I know plugins, Safari plugins, browser plugins, usually are pretty easy to set up and learn because they are one-trick ponies. Uh-huh. But are these things that mere mortals can do?
Yeah, I think most of the presentation is pretty much geared toward general, everyday users, and I'm not really going to get too much into, business automation and things like that, because I think, especially the audience, I think at Macworld, iWorld, I'm not speaking on the Mac IT side, so I think it's kind of everyday Mac users who just might want some tips. So I'm going to try to keep it fairly basic. I may get into a little bit of complex stuff in some areas, because I do want to talk about some data automation, and that kind of stuff might get a little bit more complicated. But I always try to keep my presentations fairly basic and not get too over people's heads, especially when I've only got 45 minutes. If it was like an all-day workshop or something, that would be a little bit different. So.
Yeah. So what's the title of the presentation, and when is it?
It is Automating the Web. That's the name of it, and it. And I kind of wish. I think the name's fine, but I'm gonna just talk some general productivity stuff too. It's not just going to all be, developing a script or something. And that is Thursday at 4:00, I believe. And then my rapid fire session is that night as well. So.
Right. So let's jump over into the rapid fire session. These are sessions that are rapid fire. The speakers get 5 minutes on stage, and we mean 5 minutes. They're on a clock, and at 5 minutes you get the hook.
Yep.
So what are you going to deliver in 5 minutes that's going to be impactful?
So so my presentation for the rapid fire session this year is some quick tips for different ways to recover your stolen Apple device. And the reason, this is something I've thought about for a couple of years now, because various people in my family have either lost or had their devices stolen over the past few years. And I thought that, so as this would occur, I would start thinking about, how could they recover it? Because they may not have, Find My iPhone turned on. Or even if they do, the thieves may not, they may disable it or something. So I've thought about some various ways that people can track their device, either just like through researching it or just trying different things. And not that it's necessarily going to encourage somebody to find their device, but just some things. Actually, one of the things I did, I'm not going to mention it because I'll save it for the presentation, but something I wrote about a while back for a blog. And somebody actually posted on there that actually helped them recover their stolen device. And it's kind of not the norm, Find My iPhone or something like that. So I think, I've only got 5 minutes, so I'm just going to kind of throw out a few ideas for different ways people can try to do this.
Well, that sounds like a very practical thing. And it doesn't even have to be stolen. It just has to be, lost. Can't find it.
Right.
I've been known to use Find My iPhone, Find My iPad in the house when, it's like, okay, I know it's here. Where did it slip down? But what did it slip down between, or what did I put on top of it?
Yep.
And those kind of tools, they can be simple, but they solve a problem. And that's what it's all about, is solving problems.
Yep. Yeah. So I think it'll be fun. I haven't started writing the presentation yet because I just found out I got it like yesterday, I think. So, but I have some ideas, and I got a few weeks to put it together. So I think should be good.
This edition of MacVoices is sponsored by Smile, the makers of PDF Pen, PDF Pen Pro, PDF Pen for iPhone, PDF Pen for iPad, PDF Pen Scan Plus for iPhone and iPad, Text Expander Touch, and Disk Label. Find out more about all their great products at smilesoftware.com. Text Expander by Smile is a great way to step up your productivity game by simplifying those repetitive tasks we all have. This week, by pointing you to some sources for snippets that power users have created and shared, I want to give you some ideas of how you can harness the power of Text Expander. Yes, it will rock your world. Take a look at a Macworld article by Dan Miller entitled My Top 5 Text Expander Snippets. Dan shares 5 different and varied snippets that include email signatures and boilerplate messages, an HTML code and clipboard tip that I have personally found very useful, a snippet for Google, and a text manipulation snippet. Or, if you want to explore the geekier side of the power of Text Expander, check out Brett Terpstra's site for some snippets that will aid you in AppleScript, Markdown, CSS, and more. And those are just a very, very few examples of what you get when you tap into the power of Text Expander. There's more, lots more, like fill-in-the-blank snippets to help you enter variable data in multiple fields, data and time snippets, insert photos and graphic snippets, and much more. Find out what Text Expander can do for you by downloading a free trial at smilesoftware.com. And when you realize just how useful it is, buy your copy on the Smile website or in the Mac App Store. The power of Text Expander, brought to you by Smile, the makers of world-class software. Thanks to Smile for sponsoring this edition of MacVoices. Yeah. And again, you're one of a number of people that do the rapid fire sessions. And so that's what you do, for now. I think it's an hour and a half. You have this series of 5-minute presentations from some really great speakers. Some are deadly serious. Some are, borderline stand-up, but it always works out, and the audience is really receptive, and we all, I think, have a shorter attention span, especially by the end of the day. You're a little tired and everything, and this just turns into something fun and useful. And if you're bored by this one or it doesn't apply to you, just wait 5 minutes and you get the next one.
Yeah. I think they started it about 2 years ago, maybe, and I've spoken at all of them so far. But I love just seeing what the other presenters have, and like you said, I think the presentation's 90 minutes. There's usually about 10 people that give 5-minute talk, maybe more, 10 to 15, and it's all over the map what these presentations could be. Last year they had somebody who was flying a drone with their brain waves or something. I mean, some of them are just incredible what these people are doing, and a lot of them are really funny too. So it's an evening event, so I think people will enjoy it, I think.
Yeah, it's somewhere between, and I guess a lot of the Macworld sessions are, but this one more so. It's somewhere between information and entertainment.
Yeah, it's kind of almost like a game show even. I mean, you're held to the 5 minutes too, so they have a timer, and I think they may have had some kind of an alarm, like a cowbell or an air horn or something last year that they were ringing to get people off stage. But you're done, when those 5 minutes are up. So and I'll tell you, as a presenter, when I get up there and I've got a clock in my face counting down, I start talking a little faster.
Yeah, well, you want to get through this stuff, because you have whatever it is you're delivering. You want to get it out to the audience and see how they react and hopefully benefit from it.
Yeah.
So, well, that's great. There's two different kind of sessions, and I love the automating the web thing, because your premise is exactly right. We're all doing more and more, it seems, on the web. You and I are both in snow country, and when you lose electricity here, which we have a couple times this winter, you suddenly realize how much you depend on that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, we lost power a few days due to snow and ice, and we had a generator hooked up, and one of the things we powered was the FiOS, modem and the Wi-Fi. So we were able to get internet, and we've canceled our home phone line, so we were able to, we use our cell phones, and we were still able to stay in touch with everybody and get online and watch Netflix and things like that. So,
isn't it interesting, Ben, how you don't realize how much, say, in the last 5 years, all our lifestyles have changed, how technology has crept in. And I understand that you, me, the people listening to this are all technology enthusiasts to one degree or another. But, yeah, the home phone is a thing of the past for a lot of us, and cable TV is not quite a thing of the past yet, but it's moving there quickly. And, working offline without a computer and heaven forbid without the internet is getting to be a thing of the past too.
Yep. Yeah, and even without even before we had the FiOS hooked up to the generator, I mean, we were able to get online with the iPhones and the iPads and things like that. So, but yeah, technology's definitely changed. We have a 1.5-year-old, and our middle one is 12. So it's been a while, but just the technology for the kids has changed so much too. I mean, an iPad is our baby monitor now. So,
and I always laugh because I've seen it at so many conferences and tech conferences, and just out of when you're shopping, that you see a child in a stroller at that age, and they've got an iPad propped in front of them, and they're just going to town on whatever game it is. They know exactly what to do and what they're trying to accomplish, and it's fascinating.
Yeah, it's natural to them. Though I will say that my toddler had my iPad a few months ago and dropped it out of the stroller and smashed it. So, so needless to say, she doesn't get the iPad anymore.
Yeah, or you need to buy a better case. One of the two.
Yeah, well, yeah, she has a hand-me-down iPhone now in a nice solid case. So.
That's great. That's great. There's a topic for next year. Kid tech. Because you're right. That's not a space that I play in any sense, but it definitely. I'm sure there are a lot of people that could learn a lot from that.
Oh yeah. Yep, I think so.
Yeah. So how about the business side of life? Automated workflows going well?
Yep, going well. keeping busy with client projects and automation and productivity stuff. And then I think we spoke a while back. I think it was maybe November or something. Apple had released an iWork update that they basically did away with all the AppleScript support and all the apps. So I think we got on the phone to talk about that. But since then, Apple's made some changes to iWork, and they've actually reintroduced AppleScript support in Numbers. And I wrote an article up for Macworld a few weeks back about that. But Apple, I guess after the whole scripting being ripped out debacle, they Apple released a tech note where they kind of said, okay, yeah, we realize there's a lot of stuff missing in these apps, and this is kind of along the lines of what I was saying at the time, but they said that in subsequent releases we'll start adding some of this stuff back in, and sure enough, a month or so ago they released an update, and Numbers had full AppleScript support back. All the AppleScript support that was in Numbers 09 is all back in Numbers 13 now. So Pages and Keynote, they still need a little bit of work, especially Pages, but it's one step at a time, and I'm sure that the stuff will start coming.
It's always interesting and almost annoying that when things like that happen, not everybody, but a lot of people just start saying the sky is falling, we have to jump to another platform, we have to do something. Mm-hmm. And that's really not the case. Because nobody's forcing, and especially in this case with Apple, nobody was forcing you to go to the new versions.
Right. Yeah, they kept the old version out so people could continue to use it. I agree that I think there's, as far as the AppleScript stuff goes, especially, there's always people kind of crying that the sky's falling. AppleScript's going away, things like that. But I don't really think that's the case. But I will say that I think that people being vocal about the need for scripting support in the iWork apps, I think that did send a clear message to Apple that this stuff's important, and not just the scripting stuff. There was a lot of other productivity stuff that was taken out of these apps, and I think Apple heard enough people kind of saying, we need this stuff, and they answered, and they're going to continue to answer by adding some of the stuff back in and making the apps more productive. So,
in other words, you're going to be busy for a long time.
Hopefully, yes.
Well, it's great. Well, Ben, I really appreciate you coming on. We've been trying to do these little sort of short Road to Macworld things to give people a sense of what the sessions are, let them see you, remember you if they haven't seen you, or get to know you if they haven't seen you before, and realize, you're real people doing real stuff with this, and they're coming to San Francisco to share. That's what it's all about. So, yeah,
looking forward to it.
Yep. So we'll see you there in a couple weeks.
Great. Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. I'll be in San Francisco. Ben's going to be in San Francisco, along with everybody else you've seen on the road to Macworld, and a whole lot more. We hope you will join us there. Until the next time, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for links, show notes, to subscribe, to connect with Chuck on Twitter, app.net, Google+, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter, the MacVoices Dispatch, to stay up to date with all the latest MacVoices news from our front page or at macvoices.com/newsletter. Advertising and sponsorships handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com.